Judaeorum Terra.
Land of the Jews.
And this is a 1588 map. Makes sense.
Land of the Jews.
So it states the source, Judaeorum, Terra, African Atlas and Geography, 1588 AD. Source, the Jews of Africa, or the Judeans, especially in the 16th and 17th centuries, by Sidney Mendelssohn, with a portrait of the author, Michigan State University, 1920 AD. And it says 1588 AD, the Jewish, we know it's not Jewish, but it's Judean state of Judaeorum, Terra, in Africa. So, hey, you're not lying. You know, maps and old books.
I bet they were. If ever people were lost, we're it.
It's only by the grace of God that any of these people will reach their as yet unknown destinations alive. Or maybe it's his will that they don't. So, Lieutenant, why are you venturing into those forsaken regions?
What do you know about a man named Shaka?
Does that answer your question, Lieutenant? The Masani tribe, Umulus, Lubis, Unus, the Ungwanis, countless others, the banished of Southeast Africa.
The banished of Southeast Africa.
So we're going to type in land of the Jews. And what do we get?
Terra Judaeorum. Terra Judaeorum.
Land of the Jews.
There you have it. In a 1588 map of Africa.
Fleeing Shaka's spears, going straight into the arms of the white slave traders and the British troops on the borders of the Cape Colony. In a way, Lieutenant, they are the ultimate victims of recent history. If you'll favor my comparison, they are the wandering Jews of Africa. Fleeing the Pharaoh Shaka, they are the wandering Jews of Africa. Fleeing the Pharaoh Shaka, they are the wandering Jews of Africa. Fleeing the Pharaoh Shaka into the Babylonian captivity of slavery.
Now look at the screenshot. What do we have right here? A Hebrew servant, okay? With the feathers, just like the previous slide.
God is white. Isn't it obvious?
God is white. It's simple logic. His son is white.
That's not proof. I'm white. My son is black.
Are you seeking forgiveness, Walter?
Forgiveness for what, Reverend?
Vivian said you told her that God is black.
I simply posed it as a possibility.
We don't speculate on God's color, Walter. If you ever want Vivian to speak to you again, go upstairs and tell her that God is white.
But we're really not sure. I mean, the Hindus don't believe it, the Muslims, the Buddhists.
So, I consider that the so-called black people of the West are actually the Jews.
And he accepts me, I'm Jewish.
He accepts me, I'm Jewish.
He accepts me, I'm Jewish. But yet he's Muslim, and we still get along. He understands me. He understands me, and he still allows me to hang with him. He knows that I like pork and white women, but he still allows me to be here with him. Now, I can give up pork, but them white women, goddammit.
The lost tribes of Israel were black.
5'10" is he was 5'10".
Ethnically, I mean, was he like us or
a woman?
No.
Female?
No, I would say was he like
what?
African?
Was he African?
African.
No, he was American, and he was like you. He looked just like you.
He was Jewish.
Just like you.
Jew. It's an odd crowd for a Jew.
Yeah, pretty docile.
Okay.
As for blacks, if you look into the black civilizations that we're going to take a look at momentarily, you find something pretty interesting. You find that those civilizations actually arose as Jewish civilizations, later to become Islamic civilizations. Now, we live in a nation where blacks are taught that whitey got ahead by being a liar and a thief. So today's so-called black leaders get on the air and proclaim that the way to get ahead in America is for the black man to be a better liar and thief than whitey. I don't know about you, but I've thought about this matter, and there's no question in my mind as to where these so-called black leaders come from. They were put up there by whitey. Now, I'm not going to name any names. But the truth of the matter is that the roots of black greatness historically lay in Judaism and Islam. So the blacks who are teaching today that the answer to the question, how do you get ahead, is get the money, dollar bill, y'all. You folks know who I'm talking about, and that's what they teach. They don't want to hear any talk about God. For these people, the dollar bill, y'all crowd, the realization that black greatness in the past lay in roots which go into Judaism and Islam is not really what they want to hear. So they just ignore it.
Because not only he hates them because they're chosen, but he hates them because literally, like I just explained, they're your and my hope to be saved. Of course, we don't need them, but salvation is for them, and it's for all who cling to the truth that came down through them and for them. In other words, they're first, you're second. This is explained not only in the Bible, but also all of the books that should be in your so-called Bible, but were not allowed in by the Freemasonic organizations that rule and control the earth, because they don't want you to know all that truth. But it is out there. I know it's in Baruch. I know it's in Ezra's. That's the message for this video. And again, say it again, black people, especially the Hebrew Israelites, the actual chosen people of the Most High, who was sent on slave ships, not for the sake of all of them, but for the sake of the many. Because just as all humans are fallen, the majority of them oftentimes did not follow after him, but he always had his Zion. He even always had his prophets. He always had his faithful people. But they were even sent into exile for the sake of the many.
Tariq ibn Ziyad means Tariq, the son of Ziyad. Tariq was, I believe, a Moroccan. This is Morocco over here. In other words, he was a Moor, a man from Morocco. This whole North African empire, Islamic empire, came to be called the Moors, or in Shakespeare, the Blackamoors. Sounds like we had some black people there, huh? Tariq took the armies of Islam across the Straits of Gibraltar and landed on the Rock in the year 710 AD. You'll never guess what he did next. He burned the boats. He'd made up his mind that if his armies of Islam could not conquer Spain, they weren't going home. So he burned the damn boats, and that left them facing one way, which was straight forward. And in the year 710, they swept across the Iberian Peninsula, and they took the land that we now call Spain for Islam. For just about 800 years, until precisely the year 1492, the year Columbus sailed for America. For almost 800 years, Spain was a Muslim country. The army stopped at the Pyrenees Mountains because they couldn't beat the French. In honor of his conquest,
God, he was like light brown, but he was basically dark-skinned. So this Christian church. So when the Portuguese are like going, well, how come this Christian church is here? Anyway, it all came out. This church was established by St. Thomas, and St. Thomas was one of Jesus' disciples. It was doubting Thomas.
It is very important that you understand who the true Hebrews are, because that end-time prophecy, lots of it, surround these individuals. I am a Gentile. I know exactly who I am, but it seems to be the one group of people in the world that have been, by the rest of the world, tried to be dumbed down to the fact or completely erase their history from history is the African American people, so-called, that are scattered throughout the nations. Now, please understand that not every single black person is a true Hebrew, but it is those that are under the curse of Deuteronomy 28. And you'll be able to tell by the time that I'm done giving you this information in this video who the true Hebrews are, and you may be one of them. So let's begin. In the early pictures that you would see depicted in worship places, churches, and things of this nature, as you can see right here in this image right here, and others that I'll continue to put up, that Messiah was depicted as a black person, you know, an African-American person. And this is totally different to what we see as Roman Catholicism was further introduced and spread abroad throughout the world. We always see a white Caucasian Messiah being depicted. And I want to reiterate throughout this that I'm not being racist. I love every single person in humanity. It's very important we know who the true Hebrews are. And anyway, as time progressed, though, these paintings and the depictions went from the black African-American features to a more Caucasian white feature. And this wasn't done overnight. This was a slow sifting process as to what we have today. Now, in every church house and on their walls, we see a white Messiah. And this could not be further from the truth. Now, I'll put links in the bottom of the video description where you can go see a lot of these abroad on the internet. And I encourage you to research Google because there's so many remaining artifacts of this from centuries before.
Clear Hebrew letters. All right, now we know in the Mishnah, so written somewhere in a little after 200 of the Common Era, so traditions going back further than that, it's talking about the Jewish people in terms of their color. How are we described?
Right, so Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote the Mishnah. He was a direct descendant from the house of King David, and he was in charge of the passing on the law of the generation. Now, to have written down the oral law was forbidden for the Israelites. It was oral, meant to be taught father to son. He saw that we are already scattered around the whole world, and if we don't preserve this, we're going to lose it. So he chose to write it down, and it was called the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, he was speaking about the skin afflictions that happened to people in the times of the temple, and when he's speaking about the color of the skin, he references and says that the children of Israel were not white, and they were not black. They were boxwood. That's the word it was used. Perhaps like the color of the table we're sitting at. And, you know, you have to imagine he was saying the children of Israel. I think he was speaking about in past tense of who they were. At the time already that he was alive, you had great, Roman converts who became Torah scholars.
When Israel was in Egypt, face. Come on, let's sing. Not sing. Come on. When Israel was in Egypt, this is just retarded. Come on, man, let it go. You'll feel better. Let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go.
What on Moses? Land. Tell, O Pharaoh, let my people go.
I think I found my people.
I was noticing that you're kind of hanging out a lot with Kyle lately. Is there a problem with that? No, I think it's amazing. It's awesome that someone like you could be okay with someone like him, given all the new information lately. You know, the stuff that's come out about how the Jews stole the black race's identity? That the lost tribes of Judah were actually all Africans? You didn't hear about this? Black people are actually the Jews and people like Kyle have taken that from them? Stop talking to me.
That's why Arabs and Negroes looked the same, because they were of the same stock, the same phenotype. It was indistinguishable, at least the so-called Negro Arabs or black Arabs, because those are the descendants of Shem. Genesis 10:21 through 31. Okay? It's all in the scriptures, not from a religious standpoint, but from a biblical history standpoint. Okay? Now, they said on that Wikipedia, additionally, contrary to what is taught by black Hebrew Israelites, no kingdom of Judah existed in West Africa, and the Middle East state has no connection with the kingdom of Wida. Okay, well, this book says different. Okay, Creole, New Orleans, Race and Americanization. This is a college textbook. Okay, so right here, let that clear up a little bit. The origins and numbers of slaves brought to Louisiana from Africa, 1719 through 1743. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. Judah, Wida, 1719, landed. Were millions of slaves brought here? No. Number of slaves, 200. And these are all the French names, I assume. Same thing with Senegal. Okay. Now, let me see. Same thing, which I've read up in some of my older videos. Between 1726, 1731, almost all the slave trading voyages, let me see, organized by the Company of the Indies, went to Louisiana. The most important of the Senegambian maintained a tight control over which peoples could be enslaved and sold to the Europeans. Judah was very profitable in the slave trade, but they say it didn't exist, right? Okay. Let me see. Here we go. The slave trade at Judah becoming uncertain and unprofitable. The Portuguese were taking the upper hand at Judah. I wonder why. Okay, here we go again. Between June 1719 and January 1731, 16 slave trading ships arrived in Louisiana from the Senegal region. 6 ships came from Judah or Wida, a slave trading post of the Gulf of Benin near Doheny, and one from Cabin, Angola, during the same period. Okay, so the African slaves brought to the Chesapeakes during the 18th century came mainly from the Bight of, I can't pronounce that word, Biafra, and were heavily Ibo or Hebrew. Okay.